Hello, listeners. This is Kat, and welcome back to Put Your Hands Up Podfics. This will be the continuation of Weekend at Bakugo's. This will be Part 10, Chapter 10. Come on, we'd better rescue the little man from the girls, said Kirishima from the doorway. Are you going to be, you know? Bakugo huffed and half-heartedly shoulder-checked him as he left the room. Kirishima pulled the door closed behind them as he shoved Bakugo across the hallway, grinning. With his hands in his pockets, Bakugo couldn't brace himself quick enough and ended up hopping sideways until he hit the opposite wall. Oi, fucking jeez! Kirishima just laughed at him as they headed downstairs. Bakugo knew what he was doing, and he was grateful. More so than he probably ever would be able to put into words. For the first time, thanks to Kirishima, he had a certain clarity about his situation outside of this weekend. There was still a lot to process, but he'd never been afraid of hard work, and he relished a challenge. For now, however, he had to concentrate on being #1 babysitter, and he was determined to babysit the shit out of this weekend. They found Izuku standing on one of the sofas where he was being handed pink and white bow hair clips that he was fixing with the utmost care into Todoroki's hair. White bows and red hair, pink and white. Bakugo whipped out his phone. This was too good to miss. Having fun? He called after he got the shot. Izuku spun around at the sound of his voice. Kacchan! He exclaimed, already climbing down from the sofa. He ran to him with his arms in the air, and Bakugo lifted him up to settle the toddler on his hip. Only then did Bakugo notice that Izuku also had clips in his hair, but these were a very familiar shade of orange. He flicked one, his fingernail clacking against the plastic. Everyone helped dry and brush my hair, explained Izuku happily. And Mina put some special cream in it to make it super soft, and Chaco said I could have a look at the clips because they were already out, and I wanted orange, but I couldn't find orange, then Yaoyoro... Izuku began to stumble at Yaoyorozu's name, until she herself interrupted from where she was kneeling next to the table with the other girls. Yaomomo is fine, Zuku, she laughed gently. He nodded a little shyly, and then continued. So, Yaomomo made me some orange ones, and everyone helped put them in. He shook his head gleefully, so the many clips click-clacked against each other. I'm glad you've had a good time. Bakugo moved to sit down on the other side at the main table from Todoroki, with Izuku in his lap. So, how'd you get roped in half and half? Izuku asked if he could put clips in my hair. He answered plainly with a slight shrug, his deadpan manner contrasting so sharply with the many bows that currently adorned his head. It was almost comedic. Kirishima was looking at the many remaining hair clips on the table. He rummaged around and found a large glittery butterfly that he immediately stuck in his own spikes, front and center. Izuku found this highly hilarious, as did the girls. He got off of Bakugo's lap to join Kirishima and, to no doubt, fill a second head with multicolored monstrosities. Did you get a good picture? Todoroki asked, startling Bakugo as he sat down next to him. Yeah, I did, Izuku's mom asked to be kept up to date, and I thought pictures would be good. He didn't know why he felt the need to explain, but he had anyway. That's nice of you to do, Todoroki said quietly. Can I see? Why? Afraid you look like an idiot? Because I hate to ruin your self-image, but that's standard, Bakugo grumbled at him. The corner of Todoroki's mouth twitched. I assure you, it has nothing to do with my self-image. Bakugo rolled his eyes, but pulled out his phone again. Todoroki snorted as he saw what he currently looked like for the first time. Can you send that to me? He asked very quietly. Then he sighed at Bakugo's raised eyebrow and muttered, My mother also likes to be kept up to date, and I think that picture might make her smile. Bakugo groaned inwardly. How was he supposed to say no to that? All you can do is try to be deserving in his eyes, and that probably includes being nice to his friends, doesn't it? God damn it, shitty hair. He nodded, but realized with slight chagrin that he barely had any of his classmates' contact information. It would be in the nerd's phone, right? He quickly thumbed through Izuku's contacts and copied the number across. I am sitting right here. You could have just asked me, Todoroki said when he realized what Bakugo was doing. This was quicker. Hardly, he retorted, amusement in his voice. Thank you, he added when his own phone buzzed. They sat there in silence as they watched Izuku slowly make Kirishima look like he should be in a carnival, helped along by Roundface and Invisigirl. The amount of gel shitty hair must apply to make it support the accumulating weight made Bakugo's scalp itch just thinking about it. Mina was French braiding Yaoyorozu's long hair while she read. Jiro and Froppy were sharing earphones and painting their toenails. Is this how girls spend their Saturdays? It's weirdly peaceful. The party idea floated back to him in the quiet. Where the fuck do I start? Then, wide-eyed with realization, he turned to face Todoroki. What? Bakugo shook his head, took out his phone, and began typing furiously. You're Izuku's friend, right? Why are you texting me? Just answer the question. No, I let anyone and everyone put clips in my hair. Bakugo looked up with an expression that he hoped said, Why you gotta be like this? Todoroki huffed through his nose with a small smile. Yes, I am Izuku's friend. Well spotted. Good, I have an idea and I'll need everyone's help. He continued typing. Todoroki looked up in confusion, wondering what the hell Bakugo of all people could need his and everyone else's help with, and why they couldn't talk about it out loud. Bakugo was still typing, until he hit send with a great degree of finality, and glared at Todoroki. His phone finally buzzed, and he read and read, trying to ignore Bakugo's leg bouncing impatiently. He took a deep breath as he finished and surveyed Bakugo, who straightened and squared his shoulders as if expecting a fight. Todoroki nodded, and Bakugo's tension released. There's a group chat with the whole class in it. I think you kept removing yourself and we gave up trying to add you back in, but it'll be on Izuku's phone, so use that to let everyone know. Ida's in the library studying. I'll go and talk to him and see what we can organize. You see if you can talk to Yaomomo while you're both here. We should be able to utilize materials left over from the festival for decoration, and we'll work out who does what from the chat. Bakugo nodded. This was honestly more help than he was expecting to get, but maybe he underestimated how much Izuku meant to the rest of the class. Todoroki nodded back and, without another word, stood up and left, with white clips still in red hair and pink clips still on white. I wish I could see Ida's face when he turns up. Bakugo grinned at the thought. He decided to act on Half and Half's advice immediately and headed over to where Mina and Yaoyorozu were. Yaoyorozu glanced up as he approached. Everything okay, Bakugo? She asked. Yeah, I just wanted to say thanks again for the pajamas and stuff. Izuku really likes them, he muttered. He said as much earlier on. Then he asked me about my quirk. I think what he said was, Kacchan said it's really cool. Both her and Mina grinned at him. Bakugo bit back his knee-jerk assholery and mumbled, It is. Mina laughed at him outright, but Yaoyorozu smiled and patted the floor beside her, inviting him to sit down. You look like you have a question, Bakugo. What can we help you with? And Icy Hot's gone to catch glasses in the library to see what we can organize. Bakugo had rushed through the plan, trying to keep his voice as low as possible with Izuku in the same room. He showed Yaoyorozu Todoroki's message. She scanned it quickly and nodded. That's a very good starting point, she agreed, and then turned slightly to Mina. Did you get that too? I did. Should be easy enough. Using anything left over from the festival's a good idea. We can go to the store this afternoon to pick up... Shh! Bakugo and Yaoyorozu hissed at the same time. Mina grimaced and mouthed her apologies. They all glanced around at Izuku, who had apparently given up on Kirishima's hair and was now clipping clips to Kirishima's clothing. The redhead was aiding and abetting by pointing out where Izuku could fit another one. Definitely send it to the group chat, whispered Mina, putting elastics on the end of Yaoyorozu's braids. Bakugo nodded, and then noticed them both staring at him. His eyes flicked from one to the other and then back again until... Right now? He asked, and they both nodded. We'll organize from there, Yaoyorozu said. Bakugo sent the message to the chat from Izuku's phone and looked up to protest, but she held up her hand and added, I rather think you've got enough on your plate this weekend. They looked over to Izuku again. He had just started heading their way. Kacchan? Yeah, buddy? Izuku stood with his hands behind his back, looking down at his shuffling feet. What's the matter, Zuku? Asked Yaoyorozu softly. Nothing, he mumbled quietly, and held out a hair clip to Bakugo, who stared at it nonplussed. The girls giggled. Thanks, said Bakugo, still none the wiser. I think it's your turn, hissed Mina, barely suppressing her grin. Oh, for fuck's sake, really? He tried so hard to keep the resignation out of his voice when he asked Izuku if it was indeed his turn. Yeah, the toddler said, starting to smile. It was as if he had been genuinely worried that Kacchan would say no. As if I could. What color would you like? Bakugo glanced at the orange clips in Izuku's hair, then at Kirishima, who was smiling at them from the sofa, looking for all the world like a hair accessory stall had thrown up all over him. Fuck it. I think... He pretended to mull it over. I'll go for green. Izuku beamed at him. His heart stuttered. I am fucked. He sat patiently while Izuku dug out all the green clips from the collection, most of which looked like they belonged to Froppy. He had to return to Kirishima to remove a few. Bakugo had taken a picture of Kirishima while he waited, who had given a thumbs up, never one to feel embarrassed by this sort of thing. As the master stylist began his latest creation, the girls all stood up from their various pastimes. "Well, we've got stuff we need to sort. Can we trust you to pop everything back in the boxes when you're done?" asked Yaoyorozu, inclining her head at Bakugo slightly. He nodded back. "Will do," answered Kirishima from where he was still sprawled on the sofa, glittering. They all began to head out. "Yaoyorozu!" Bakugo called, and she turned back. "Thanks. Again." She surveyed him, with her hands on her hips, and Bakugo felt a little like he'd been caught by his mother, with his hand in the cookie jar. "As I said to Zuko earlier on, Yaomomo is perfectly okay." And with that, she went to catch up with the others. Kirishima had taken advantage of the fact he couldn't move and had relieved him of his phone to document his makeover at Izuku's hands. "I'm never going to live this down." Bakugo waited until Izuku's back was turned before putting his middle finger up at Kirishima. Meanwhile, Izuku's phone was blowing up with notifications from the group chat. Everyone was so on board that this was at risk of getting out of hand, but he honestly couldn't bring himself to care. He just wanted to give Izuku the best time possible. His class was both completely enamored with tiny Izuku and down to party at the drop of a hat. From his vantage point in the common area, he could see the class come to life. All of a sudden, there was a flurry of activity unheard of for a Saturday afternoon. At one point, Sparkle Boy had walked past and spotted Kirishima, still adorned in the contents of 6 girls' accessory bags. He started off speaking some French. With a hand on his chest, Kirishima stared at him clueless and then looked to Bakugo for help. "I think he said, 'You never looked better.'" Bakugo snorted. Kirishima grinned and shouted his thanks. Sparkle Boy looked at Bakugo, astonished. "Tu parles français?" He grinned too, saying back in French, "Only a little bit, glitter git." Aoyama laughed loudly as he left the room. "All done," Izuku finally announced. Bakugo was glad. He could feel the clips making his spikes droop, but they were holding up at least as well as Kirishima's had without any gel, and he couldn't help but feel a little smug about that. "Picture," announced Kirishima. "We can send it to your mom, Zuko." Izuku gasped and clapped his hands together excitedly while Bakugo glared at Kirishima. "Motherfucker, he knows I can't get out of it now." Izuku climbed into his lap and settled himself, with his back to Bakugo's chest. Bakugo put his arms around Izuku's middle almost instinctively and rested his chin on top of the toddler's head. "Holy fuck, his hair is so soft. What the hell did Mina put in it?" "Say cheese!" "Cheese!" They grinned together. The rest of the afternoon passed between Mario Kart, Smash Bros, and questioning glances at their hair. Izuku was delighted when Todoroki had returned, still sporting his hair clip crown. Eventually, 5:30 rolled around, and Bakugo moved him and Izuku into the kitchen, out of the main bustle so he could call their moms. He seated Izuku on the counter, found the number in his phone, and pressed the call button. It rang, and then went to voicemail. He checked the time. It was definitely 5:30. He gave it 5 minutes, then tried again. This time the call was picked up. "Hi, son. Sorry we missed you the first time. Your mom was on another call that overran." "Nice hair." Bakugo's dad's face came into view on the screen, and Izuku's head jerked up at the sound of his voice. "Uncle?" Izuku whispered, eyes alight. Bakugo Masaru had always been a particular favorite of Izuku's. "It's fine. I can call back in a bit if that helps." No, Mom's just gone to get the door." He smiled. "Our guest for the evening has arrived." Bakugo nodded, and his dad added quietly, "You doing okay?" "Yeah." He caught himself smiling softly at Izuku, who was looking between him and the phone intently, still unable to see the screen. "We're doing fine." He glanced back at his dad to see that he was wearing the same expression as All Might had been that morning. Knowing, pleased, proud. It was quietly infuriating. He rolled his eyes to hide his discomfort. "Katsuki?" Inko's voice came through the phone. If Izuku had been intrigued before, now he was zeroed in on the phone like nothing Bakugo had ever seen. "Mom?" he squeaked, lip trembling. "Hi, Auntie," Bakugo greeted as she came into view. "I'll put him on." He pulled Izuku to him, so the toddler was back to chest with him again. Bakugo put his elbows on the countertop, either side of him, and held the phone in front of them both, with his chin hovering over Izuku's shoulder. "Zuku, baby!" Inko cried, tears already in her eyes. His dad's hand was on her shoulder. He saw it contract in a comforting squeeze. "Mommy!" Izuku hiccuped wetly. Bakugo waved to Koda to pass him the tissues from the common room table, and he knew his own mom was sourcing mop-up materials on the other end of the call. Midoriya's man. All right, listeners, this concludes Chapter 10 of Weekend at Bakugo's. Chapter 11 will be up next. I hope you all are still enjoying this one, and as always, thank you so much for listening.